Okay, well, hello, and we're here for
Hello.
another. Hello,
Very formal today.
greetings. Here for another episode of Maitland Presbyterian's Church Chat. Oh, we said it at the same time. It's like we planned it.
So today's church chat and the next couple of podcasts will actually have real guests coming back. I will be talking to Tracy Chiraco and to Scott Maxwell. So we're really excited to have them on the podcast.
But today we have a returning guest who is pretty famous in the church world, Carey Nieuwhof. Welcome, Carey.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you, eh?
Oh,
no, that was.
Is he from Australia?
No, he's Canadian. So I put A, but I can only do like one accent. So
it's all the same.
Sorry.
Maybe.
Hey, anyway,
no.
So Carey is a pastor and a thinker and a church guru, kind of.
Yeah.
That we really like his stuff.
He has a great blog, and so he wasn't on the podcast before either, but we read his stuff, and so he's our podcast guest.
It's like he's a guest.
It's like he's here.
It's like when you read a book and you love it, and it's like the author is just right there in your room.
That's right.
You know? So welcome, Carey.
Welcome, Carey. And we landed on this particular article because we've realized this is the time of year when we start to really lose motivation to make any progress.
Yeah, summer in Florida is, it's hot.
Yes.
It's hard to do things. You know,
It is hard. It's like, well, we had the same situation when we lived up north in the winter. But it was more okay. I feel like in Ohio, everyone kind of knew. In February, you don't plan anything.
Yeah, you're
just getting through the basics, and the rest of the time you go inside and stay warm and like read a book, get under a blanket, watch a movie.
No one really expects anything of you. Kind of reminds me when we first moved from Florida to New Jersey to go to seminary.
Yeah.
We went up for summer Greek. You remember, you were there, but they might not know. So we moved up in for like late May, early June, right?
Yeah, we started in July.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. You would know. And it was really weird for us because we got there as Floridians and we were just like flabbergasted that all of our neighbors were just outside for the whole summer. We were like, you don't go outside
We're like,
in
why
the
are you
summer.
outside? We were inside, blinds closed, watching TV.
So we ended up missing like a whole year of outside time because then we missed the good outside time and then winter came, which came in October, and I was out, wearing my warmest thing to walk the dogs while the guy next to me at the golf course is in a polo shirt and pointed at me and laughed.
That's New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but we learned that year that like up north, you're outside all year except for the winter, and then you go in. Like you spend all summer outside because you got to soak it up.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, here in Florida though, I feel like there's sort of an expectation that you keep functioning, even though it took me I felt like it took 5 minutes to get from the car to the church building today.
Yeah.
Because you're just moving in slow motion. Because it's actually almost 100 degrees today.
I think the real hard part with summer, though, is that you and I love the summer.
We do.
Love
We love
being
to swim.
outside, love being in the pool.
Yeah.
But it's so hot right now that we have to keep our blinds, our curtains closed to keep the air conditioning. Because, you can only keep it 20 degrees cooler than what it is
our house
outside.
is like original windows and a leaky roof and an old air conditioner. So yeah, it's like at best we're going to get 15 degrees below what the outside temp is.
So we can't even see how beautiful it is outside because we're trying to stay cool.
It makes us feel like old people. Like, just like all our curtains are pulled and the house is dark and we're like, is this just depressing? So it makes it doesn't
Why is that? It does, like, every time I go to visit someone who's older, it's always like a really warm house and all the curtains are drawn and it's so hard to stay awake.
It is hard to stay awake. So that's what we're up against now.
Yeah.
Like you wake up in the morning and it's like, well, we got to pull all the curtains, make sure they stay shut because it's hot. And
what we need is like
dark.
one of those little radio effects that maybe Antoine can find where it goes, first world problems.
Yeah, I know.
Because that's definitely what we're talking about right now.
Pathetic.
Would that be a good one or should it be like lower, like first world problems?
I don't think we need an effect. I think you can just cover it.
I am the effects.
You are the effects. So that's what we were struggling with today, is feeling like less motivated because it's just so hot. So like if you're not in the pool, you should be in the dark watching a movie, but you should not be trying to like drive your car from place to place.
And it's
like
hard.
That's comically hard right now.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to interrupt you.
Go.
It's
You're
also
all on
hard
it.
to talk about finding motivation for church in the summer, especially in the South. Well, anywhere really, because church is just a real slow time
in the summer.
Summer.
Because everyone's like, it's too hot. Like if you're not in the water, you should be at the beach, and if you're not at the beach, you should be in a movie theater. You should not be trying to like get dressed
Worship
up.
the Lord who made you and who sustains you,
but it is
who
hard.
redeemed you and will bring all things to perfection. Yeah.
But it takes like 20 minutes just to get your car cool enough to even get in it sometimes in the summer. So
yeah.
We understand, but it was actually this week, I have to say, our people really came out. Like,
Yeah.
I was proud of them because it was hot on Sunday and people were here.
Yeah. Oh, and a good time for a plug, for our 10 people who are listening.
Yes.
One service Sundays start in
July. Yeah.
So 10 o'clock, the Sunday, what's we call it? The Sunday blend?
The Sunday blend at 10.
Sunday blend at 10. So I'm really excited about that. It'll be, contemporary and traditional all melded into one.
Which is Dave's, like, favorite thing in the world.
My favorite, yeah,
not
especially
like
when
blended,
it's a surprise.
but like the hymn and contemporary song when it's together.
How Great Is Our God goes into the chorus of How Great Thou Art. Just thinking about it gives me chills. But
gets you every time.
It's especially fun because, like, I think Matt knows that I love it, and so sometimes he like as soon as the song starts, I'm like, is it gonna happen? And so I can't even enjoy the song anymore because I'm like, are they gonna do it? I don't know.
So that's what's happening this summer. We're doing summer blend, and that way we'll have one service. Everybody's together who made it out into the heat and made it here.
And we'll reward you with donuts.
Yes, and we'll just pray really hard that the air conditioning doesn't break.
Why would you say something like that?
Well, we're having donuts, except for the week we had one of the men from the men's group here had mentioned that he would like their group to host hospitality at some point. So we emailed them about it, hosting like the cookies and donuts after one of the Sundays in July. And it was great because his response, he talked to the men and they came back and said,
could you bring up the email? Would it be appropriate to read it on here?
It would take me too long to find it.
Email. It was like,
it was something to the effect of we cannot commit to have the level of like accoutrement, like decorations that the ladies have. We will commit to cookies and maybe coffee. And I loved that. I love it.
But it felt like a legal contract. It was like, there will be
he's a lawyer.
Black coffee.
Yeah.
There will not be anything pretty. But I think we're going to like get some old golf clubs and put them on the table or the tools. From
our director of hospitality, the hospitality committee chair emailed back and was like, maybe they could just like put some of their tools on the tables for decorations.
I love that.
I thought it was great. I think it's great because not everyone's going to do things the same. That would be, honestly, if I did hospitality, if you and I were in charge, it would be like boxes of cookies and maybe coffee.
And no napkins.
No. Napkins are ridiculous. Yeah.
and no water.
Okay, so, yeah, we should get to our point here at some point.
No. We're going to talk about how you refuse to serve water with food.
Refuse to serve it.
Our youngest son comes out for dinner. He's like, okay, I'll get my own water. Would anyone else like some water?
Okay, so growing up, walk with me back
Tell me
to my
story.
childhood. Growing up, there were two things in my home that were a first world problem. One of them was we had to have, like, we were not allowed to eat anywhere but the table, for sure. Like, no food, definitely no food on the couch, no food in the back of the house, only at the table. And you had to have like 8 napkins when you ate anything. It could be a cup of water, you had to have like 8 napkins. And I think I'm like rebelling against that as an adult by not having napkins. Although now we have cloth napkins that I wash in the laundry, by the way. So let's just really be honest.
But why no water?
The water thing was because growing up, I wanted to help cook and things, but I wasn't allowed to. Like, I think my parents thought I'd mess it up. I don't know. My parents are wonderful, by the way. They were computer engineers, and it was just a very strict home. And so I would want to come in and help cook, but I couldn't. So I always had to put the water on the table. It was like the Scotch tape job of wrapping presents. Like, that was the only thing I was trusted to do. You mean the most essential thing,
that the presents fall apart if you don't have Scotch tape?
Right. So that was the only thing I was trusted to do, was put glasses of water on the table. So now I have this like aversion to it, because if you're like, can you put water on the table? It's like you be like, in my head, what I hear is you're a big dumb idiot. And that's all you can be trusted to do. So that's the aversion.
You nailed
water.
It. That's exactly. No.
Wow.
That's so true though. Like I know I'm getting, if you're listening, I'm getting the
I'm putting on my glasses because we're going to talk about Carey Nieuwhof.
Well, welcome, Carey.
Good
Thanks
luck
for coming
ever
on the
getting
show.
a glass of water for me. We could be in a desert and you're dying of thirst. And I'll be like, I don't know. I just feel like I can't do it because you think I'm an idiot. All right. Here's our point. I promise we have one.
Well, I feel like we need like some sort of like, need to ramp up to this somehow.
Okay, why don't you do some music to connect us? I'll wait.
I can't think of anything now.
You can't do it on the spot.
We need, Antoine, can you put some music in this later?
All right, okay. He's got it. All right, so the transition here is we're not feeling productive. It's the summer. So the article today is called Your Stop Doing List, 7 Things to Banish Today to Make Progress. So it's kind of convoluted, but it's what are the things you should stop doing so that you can get things done.
Okay, 7 things
to
you should stop doing.
Yes,
so that you can make
to make progress. Yes.
Okay, so what's the first thing that, is it me or everyone?
What do you mean?
Is this particular to church, or is this more
this
like
is for
life?
Everyone.
For
this
everyone.
Is for everything, not just for church. He writes to church leaders, but I feel like there's stuff here for everybody.
Okay, so it's the first thing that everyone should stop doing to make some progress.
Okay, as a leader specifically, but in general.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
The first one, lead by intentions. Your kids
so we should stop
you
leading
should
by
stop
intentions?
leading by intentions. But wait, here's not being intentional. Intentions. Lead by intentions. Your kids won't remember your intentions, neither will your spouse nor your church. The people who count on you only see action. No one's going to stand next to your casket, he writes, and says he wished he was nicer. He always hoped to be more strategic. She really wanted to overcome that fear. Legacies don't get built on intentions. They're built on action. Get over your intentions. Start acting.
Absolutely.
And I think that's important too, because we get caught in like a shame cycle. Like we'll think like, oh, I just wish I could be more focused. And so then we beat up on ourselves for not being focused. And then you just get so caught up in tomorrow I'm going to start being focused, instead of being like, why don't I just do one thing today?
This really relates to me in that I still, I used to struggle with this a lot more, and still do. The feeling that I need to feel it first and then I can do it.
Right.
And the trick for me is like, just do it. Doesn't matter how you feel.
Yeah, you don't have to wait to be inspired to take out the trash. Like,
right.
Just take out the trash.
Yeah. I felt oddly pointed.
You have to wait to be like, do I feel like this is my intention?
And I'm remembering that I was supposed to take the recycling out. And
it made it out by me. This morning. But truly, I think that's true. I feel like that's true for me. I see that. Like especially if it's something big or hard, or that we have some fear about, or something that just feels real, instead of doing like, what's the one step I could take today toward this? It's like, I'm gonna tackle that big thing someday.
Yeah. Mañana.
But people don't see that.
Right.
And so intentions are great, but actions are better.
Absolutely.
But I do think that's different than being intentional. Like we need to slow down and be intentional and think through before you just start doing all the things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the first one.
Okay.
The second one, use words that start with, quote, some. If you want to get nothing meaningful done, use a lot of words that start with some, like somebody, someday, sometime, something. For example, somebody should do something about that sometime, someday. Zero will happen ever. Leadership's not just talk. The only time I use the some word is when I think somehow, which somehow can be an amazing word when you're up against an impossible task. How on earth will we do this? I don't know, but we'll figure it out somehow. So instead of some, and I think that shows up when you do strategic planning, that you come up with a strategic plan and like, okay, we need to do all these things. Great. If you stop there and don't go to the next step of who's doing it,
right?
When are they doing it? It'll never get done. It's just a beautiful idea on a whiteboard, but it has to be like, John is in charge of that and he will do it by next Wednesday.
Yes. So eliminate somebody's got to do something.
Right.
Out of your vocabulary.
Yeah. And like, who is doing it and when are they doing it, and specifically what are they doing?
Okay.
So I think that's a good one.
I like that.
So
that's
if you're like feeling stuck today, like how am I going to get this done? Especially if you're a leader, to like meet with your team and like, okay, what's the most important thing and who's going to do it and how?
I love it.
We dealt with that when we were trying to staff the nursery. Like we have constant turnover in the nursery because it's taking care of little children 2 hours a week. So like it's an easy job to walk away from.
No one's paying their mortgage
on the $30 a week for Maitland Press. No. But we realized it was just like, okay, now we have to hire for the nursery. Someone needs to take care of that. And it's just too vague and it's easy to kick to the bottom of the list. So now we have like a system like that this person does this step and this other person does this step, and it like triggers an automatic process, which makes it get done.
Yeah. Taking it kind of reminds me of no, that's not related. I'll save it because maybe something else will apply to it.
Keep it in your pocket. Yeah. All right, number 3. Okay, number 3, unnecessary meetings. This one's right up your alley. Why don't you talk about how much you hate meetings?
Oh my gosh, meetings that could be emails.
Yes.
Emails that should be texts. Unnecessary meetings. So, although I don't know, I want to hear what he says because I'm
okay. The value of meetings once you get beyond the creative process or meetings to nail down a few logistical details are pretty low. For the most part, meetings are the enemy of work. Far too many leaders waste their lives in meetings. Instead of doing what they're called to do, they meet about what they're supposed to be doing. Dreams can be born in meetings, but far too often dreams die in meetings. Meetings are the enemy of work. Do your work instead.
Okay, no, I totally agree with everything he said.
Yeah, at church here, we used to have meetings on Tuesday, and the staff meeting was like an hour and a half, and then there was a 30-minute break, and then we had a worship meeting that was like another hour and a half. So like our whole day on Tuesday was like in meetings and recovering from being in meetings. And we realized we can do a really effective staff meeting in 30 minutes, and the worship meeting could be an email.
Yes.
And so like we got a whole day back to actually like write a sermon or do counseling or have a meaningful meeting with a member of the team to like brainstorm for an idea. I think that like you have to work really hard to keep a recurrent meetings like sharp.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I have two thoughts about meetings.
Talk about meetings.
The first is kind of echoing what you said, that it drives me crazy how people, and what he said too, how people have a meeting and they feel like they've accomplished something.
Right.
You know, or they feel like because we talked about it and we came to a decision, that reflects how the world is or what's going to work. And it makes me just violently angry. Especially like, but the thing I have come to value meetings for, even recurrent meetings, even when sometimes they feel unnecessary, is here at church. There's certain, not everyone works here. Like for you and me and for the staff and for like maybe our higher like functioning volunteers, like meetings might be unnecessary. But for people where like they're not thinking about this all week.
Right.
So the only time they might think about their ministry is when they come to have that meeting. And so things get forgotten if you don't come and have that meeting. Especially with these, we have a lot of things that happen because it's in somebody's head, and it's not written down. It's not been made into like an recurring action. So I think some of those unnecessary meetings have to happen to get that knowledge out of people's heads.
I like that. And I think another thing meetings do is build community. And so I think if you're looking to the meeting to be like the time we get stuff done, you might be disappointed. But that often there is a value in the meetings if you're going in intentionally to build a community with people for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
Like our mission committee meets and they make some decisions, but a lot of it is about bringing together mission leaders in the church to build a sense of community and vision for what we're doing next. It's less about like, we're going to get a ton done in this meeting and more about like communication and community.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good takeaway is if you're someone who's in a position of being in a lot of meetings and if you have any power there, and if you don't, that's just super tough. I've been there. I've been in meetings where I was not I don't like being in any meeting where I'm not in charge. But
meetings, rooms, relationships.
Some of us are just born to be leaders.
Malls, airports.
I do labor into this illusion that I am personally responsible for any space that I'm in. Like, I can't turn it off. Like, one time we were at a theme park and everyone is standing to watch this presentation. Yeah, everybody is standing. And I'm like, if we all sat, everyone could sit. And it's like probably at least 2,000 people in this area.
But we're kind of close to the front.
We're kind of close to the front. But, like, you can't sit because then you can't see. But I was like, what if everybody sat? We could all be sitting and it would be so much more comfortable. And everyone could see, even if you were tall or short. So
and you gave a speech.
I started talking to the people around us and being like, what if we all sat down? Like, if all of us do it, everyone would do it. And so I kind of drummed it up. I gave a very passionate speech about sitting down.
The music came in.
And then for a brief moment, it started to work. Like, the people in front of me sat down. Some people behind me sat down. We sat down. It was like a little wave of sitting. And I was so excited.
But then there's just, all it takes is one jerk.
There was some standers who just wouldn't sit down. And so then everyone stood back up.
Yeah.
But it was close. It was almost the biggest success story of my life. Like, it was so close.
Okay.
So, yeah, make your meetings, if you're in charge of the meeting, go in with an idea of what is this meeting about? Like, why are we having it?
You're not having it just to have a meeting.
Right. Like, our staff meetings are partly so nothing gets dropped, but partly just so we know, like, how is everyone on our team? Like, because we'd hate to not get to talk about that together. All right. Number 4. You ready?
4.
Fear. Fear is the thief of hope. It kills leadership and it murders courage. I love that. Way too many leaders I know live in fear. The difference between effective leaders and ineffective leaders is simple. All leaders feel fear. The effective ones push past it. What's the antidote? Well, I think there are a few. I think one of the antidotes to fear is the fear of the right thing. If you're going to be afraid, fear this. Be afraid of never accomplishing your mission. That will give you courage, or at least determination, and it will grow your faith.
Wow. Yeah.
So I love that. Like, not just like, we're not talking about productivity today. Like, there's a lot of bad sides to like, how much did I get done? What we're talking about, like, when you're really trying to accomplish something meaningful, what are things get in your way? And yeah, fear. Like, what will people think? What if I fail?
Yeah.
But what if we were afraid instead of not living into like the thing we're supposed to do?
Absolutely. I think at church, especially, we talk about, church meetings and people just really are afraid of failure. They're afraid of what people will say if something doesn't work, and it doesn't have to be like everyone saying something. It could be like afraid of like this one person giving a weird look or saying something. And so it really does paralyze people, and that spreads that paralysis from fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What will people say? What if it's not successful? That sometimes it's easier to just not do something than to do something.
Yeah. Oh, it's always easier to do nothing. And sometimes it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
But that's very true.
So yeah, if you're listening and you're like, okay, what is it? What's the thing that's what's the fear that's keeping you from taking the next step on the things that really matter in your life?
And sometimes that fear is like a compass to tell you like what you should be working on.
Yeah.
Because like the thing you're maybe most afraid of is the thing that might give you the most meaning and might be something God's really calling you to do.
Oh, I love that. Let fear be the compass. That's real good.
Thanks. I'm very smart. I'm sure I read that somewhere. I'm sure I stole that from somebody.
Well, it's very good.
I am a preacher.
All right, number 5. Oh, this one's too close. I almost feel like we should skip it.
Skip.
No, we're doing it. Are you ready? Don't be afraid. Number 5, the desire to be liked. Leadership requires you to take people places that they would not go without your leadership. Stop for a moment, and if you would, reread that sentence. Do you see the challenge? Leadership's inherently difficult because it requires a leader to take people where they don't naturally want to go. So you can focus on leading people or focus on being liked. Yikes.
I just talked about that on Sunday.
If you focus on being liked, you'll never lead. You will never have the courage to do what needs to be done. And I think that applies definitely not just in a church setting, but in leadership and really like in your home, in your life. Like, what are you using to make the decisions?
Yeah.
Are you looking to do the thing that you know the people around you need, or the thing that will make you popular?
Right. And there's never been a universally liked decision.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And so if the goal is to have everyone like you can't be a leader.
Yeah. Like, think about like if you're raising kids, like you can feed them pizza and they will like you, or you can teach them to like fruit, which will make them better humans in the long run.
Yeah.
Like no matter at all levels of your life, if you're just doing things to please everybody around you, not only will you never actually do the things you know they need, but also you're going to burn out, because that's a moving target. Like there's one right thing usually that you should be doing, but what people like about what you're doing or how they feel about you could depend on how they slept last night. Like you can't let that be the metric. Yeah.
And they might really just dislike you.
Right.
You know, that I was talking, on Sunday about Jesus with the Pharisees, and, they just generally disliked him. And, what I would do in that situation is do anything I could to get them to like me. But Jesus not only didn't care they didn't like them, he made it worse. He dropped these truth bombs on them that he didn't really have to, saying, what was it? The Sabbath controversy. He said, the Sabbath was made for humankind, not humankind for the Sabbath. Then he goes on and says, so the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. You could have stopped with the first one. That was catchy. That might have changed some minds and hearts. But then he completely alienated him with the second one. And that was kind of the point, is that when people just, have just decided not to get it and will never get it, it's better to alienate them so that your people, I don't know, maybe it's better to have a common enemy. I don't know.
Right.
But being liked is a real trap.
It is. It is a trap, 100%. Yeah, and I think it keeps us from doing the right thing. I think there's a balance in that it's not going to make you successful personally or in your mission, whatever that is for you, to be a jerk about it.
Right.
Like, you can't just like walk into rooms and be like, here's what we're doing, take it or leave it, and walk out.
Yeah.
That's actually not going to get you where you need to go anyway.
And that's kind of a defense mechanism people have when they're already afraid of rejection. They come in and, so you have to be vulnerable, and you have to, find a good way to say the hard thing, but you still have to say it.
You're not like, real leadership does mean like building consensus with people and doing, working with them and helping them to see the thing that needs to be done. So I think this is not I think that's the other side of the coin on this. Like, you shouldn't just do whatever people want you to do so that you'll be well liked. That shouldn't be your motivation. But you can't also just like go into a room, decide what needs to be done, walk in, whether it's your family or your business or your church, and just make pronouncements and then storm out of rooms and be like, well, I said what needed to be done. If they do it, that's up to them.
That's true. Absolutely.
That's not leadership. That's childish.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what kids do. Like, this is how we're playing the game. If you don't want to play, we're not playing. Like, that's not leadership either.
Yeah.
So maybe it's finding that sweet spot if you're really wanting to do something right now and make a change or lead people in your life, is to figure out what needs to be done, not worry about how it'll make them feel about you, but knowing what's best for them. How can you help them get there?
One thing I need to do better is sometimes there's a decision coming up and you know exactly who's not going to like it. Mm-hmm. I know exactly who's not going to like it. And so I avoid that person.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Or yeah. I do that thing like, well, this is it, but the brave thing to do is to like call that person ahead of time. Yeah. And talk about it ahead of time and really get the feedback there. And, to end with, it's still the decision, but, but I think that's that takes more, I don't know, more leadership, more bravery.
And see, I think I need to get braver about like, just when I know what the right decision is, just doing that. Like, I think I do get caught on like, okay, wait, how can we build consensus first? But I can get stuck in consensus building forever.
Yeah.
And never be like, well, we got 80%, so we're ready to move. Like, I'm much more comfortable with like 99.8% consensus before we move forward on something.
But I think you only need like 20%.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think I get stuck in that place. And even in my family system at home, like, I'm like, okay, what does everybody else need? Instead of taking a step back and being like, what do I know that they need? Mm-hmm. Because I often might even know better than the people around me, like what's best for them at that moment.
We all count on you to know that.
But I tend to just, so I think that's the combination of fear and being liked and leadership and all of that, I think is important.
Oh, this is good.
All right. Number 6, selfishness. So you want to let go of selfishness. Ambition can be a good thing. It's great to have hopes and dreams, but selfish ambition is a different creature. Ambition kills servants of God and turns them into servants of themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a dangerous thing with like social media, and kind of feeds into, again, like wanting to be liked, and it's easy to build your brand. Hey, welcome to our podcast. But yeah, how can you not? How do you think that gets in the way for people of getting things done? Selfishness.
Well, I think it connects with the other things as well. That when doing what's best for me and my brand or whatever, like connects with like the fear of this might hurt me.
Right.
Then you just don't do it. Mm-hmm. But you have to, especially in church, like we're not here for ourselves. We're here for God and for the kingdom. And so it's okay that it might hurt us and might hurt, the way people feel about us. I think you can take that too far and be like, I'm not being obedient, or I'm not like doing the right thing if it's popular. Right. And so especially in church, oh, that church is really successful, they must be watering down the gospel.
Right.
So it can go too far, but
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think we talk in church a lot about like the two sides of sin of pride, sin of hiding. And pride is thinking we're better than we are, and hiding is thinking we're not the full people God called us to be. Mm-hmm. And so there's selfishness in both sides of that in leadership. Like on the sin of pride, being like, I'm so great, it's about my ambition, my brand, it's all about me. But sin of hiding shows up too with leaders when we're like, whatever, I know what should be done, but I'm not going to say anything because they won't listen anyway. Or who am I to do this? Or like, and I think it could be easy too to be selfish and be like, well, I know the right thing, but I'm not going to share that because they'll figure it out on their own. And that, I think, is especially prevalent with burnout. Like if you're listening to this and you're feeling some burnout in your life, it's really easy to just withdraw and to abdicate like your vision and your mission and what God's calling you to do. And we see that as like humble, or at least just like giving up, who cares? But really there's some selfishness in that. Like God has sent you out to do a thing, and you need to recover if you're burnt out and take time to rest. So rest is not selfish, but like stomping off, giving up, throwing people to their own, whatever, like I'm just going to have them do whatever they're going to do. That there's selfishness in that too, I think.
100%.
Well, that's a hard one. We should have a whole nother podcast about the importance of rest and Sabbath and avoiding burnout and all of those things.
A very quiet podcast. We'll
just rest. Oh, we should do that. Be like, the next 10 minutes, I see you sit here and be quiet, because resting is not selfish. All right, number 7. This is it. You ready?
All right.
Good sound effect.
Thank you.
Blaming others. It's so easy to blame everyone else and everything else for your lack of progress as a leader. If you want to keep not making progress, keep blaming others. The opposite of blame is responsibility. If you think about the leaders you admire the most, they're the most responsible leaders you know. Great leaders never assign blame. They assume responsibility. That, I think, is really good.
Absolutely.
So who do you think people in general blame?
I think everyone has like a go-to person they blame for
a personal scapegoat.
Yeah. So, it might be their parents. It might be their kids. It might, whatever. Like it's whatever hurts the most, or like it's kind of a traumatic memory that people kind of go to blame that person. I think a lot, a lot of people blame the president, no matter who it is.
Right.
Yeah, but I think there's plenty of blame to go around. But it's really, and some people overblame themselves for everything. But yeah,
and I think in churches we see it like we all want to place blame when something's not going right. Like if a church isn't growing, it's easy to be like, whose fault is it? Because it can't be mine. Like pastors want to blame their church wants to blame their pastors. Everyone wants to blame, this person who ruined things on Sunday, or the community. Like we'll just blame the people who aren't coming because they just don't care. We'll blame the culture for like moving into a post-Christendom, instead of saying, what responsibility can we take, all of us together, church, congregation, leaders, pastors, to say, what is our responsibility to reach out to people with the gospel? How do we because I think we can get stuck in that blame game, especially when we talk about growing the church and reaching out. Young people these days just don't care about, or like, how can we move past like that? Because I think that comes from a place of insecurity, that we
100%.
Blame others because we don't want to feel like we messed up or we're not good. So how can we set that aside and say, okay, what is God calling us to do? And how can we set aside fear? And how can we take responsibility for where we are now, and then move boldly into where God's calling us next?
There's a great phrase that describes that, where it says, it's not my fault, but it is my responsibility.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And I think that applies across the board with tons of things. There's no point in assigning fault necessarily. Maybe sometimes.
Okay.
But yeah, it's my responsibility.
I like that a lot.
People talk with, if someone has a weight problem, like, it's not my fault. There's all these kinds of reasons this might be happening, but no one else can fix this but me.
Right. Like, how do we take responsibility?
Yeah. And with churches, that it's probably all of our fault if a church is like, permanently dwindling, but, it's everyone's fault, nobody's fault, but it's all of our responsibility.
It's our responsibility.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, that was Church Chat today. Thanks for coming.
That was Church Chat?
That was Church Chat.
Are we done?
We're done.
That went fast.
That's it for today. Next week, we'll be back. We'll be joined by Tracy Chiraco, one of our church members, and is a fantastic leader in the community. So we're excited to hear from her. So tune in next week and have a great week. Until then, we'll see you later.
And the next thing will be a sermon, right? It'll be your sermon.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so next on the podcast, there'll be a sermon, and then we'll be back with Church Chat with Tracy. Yes, that's correct.
All right. Well, thanks for talking.
All right. Thanks for talking. See you guys later. Bye.